Welcome back to Candid Football Conversations, another insightful, hopefully, which we'll have tonight. And for that, I'll be having Akshata Shukla as my co-host, and we have as our guests Anjali and Nirvan Shah. Both of you, Anjali and Nirvan, thanks a lot for taking the time. You've had a busy, hectic time in Ahmedabad with the IWL. That's going to be a topic today, and in women's football, but generally football in the state and what you guys think and feel. And Akshata, also great that we will be jointly hosting this session today.
Thank you so much, Anjali and Nirvan, for joining us.
So that's Akshata, now you and me. Let's wait for Anjali and Nirvan to rejoin. We wanted to speak about the IWL, about the state of women's football in India, and maybe a little bit more because Anjali and Nirvan, of course, also run FIFA in Mumbai. This time around, they were with Lord's FA, a club from Kochi, in that competition. Before they rejoin, your take, you were following the IWL very, very closely on the IWL this year.
Um, one interesting thing that I observed throughout the tournament was from everyone, from most of the parties involved, was that, and that's a common trend in almost every sport and every league, every competition in our country, is that we talk lot about it at the start, we talk a lot about it towards the end. The middle part where a lot of things go wrong, a lot of things go unnoticed. That's something that nobody wants to talk about because eventually, like people get carried away into other sports. There are so many other things that are problematic here. So I think that is something that all of us, especially like from the media perspective, also I think that is something that we all can maybe do a little better.
All right, Anjali and Nirvan are back. Can you guys hear us properly now?
Yeah, perfect.
All right. So I'll restart with the same question as I'd asked a little while back. Is that you guys have been in the football space for over 2 decades with FIFA. You have played the IWL with FIFA. This time around, you were there with Lord's FA with Nirvan being the head coach and you, Anjali, as the manager. And how was the experience this time around in Ahmedabad?
So the experience was fantastic, Arunava. As you are aware that this year there was a very crazy situation due to which my team could not participate in the IWL. We were very wrongfully made to play without our best players and thereby not giving us the opportunity to qualify for the IWL. So it is at that point we had decided whether with FIFA or with any other club, we are definitely going to play the IWL. And we were very fortunate to get the opportunity with Lord's FA from Kochi, whereby all our players as well as Nirvan and myself could be a part of the IWL. The experience was fantastic, and just because it was someone else's club did not mean we had any less stress because we had given it our 100% and we played as if it was our own club. So we went through the same highs and lows and the stress involved as if it was our own club. And especially since uh, majority of the players were our own players. So yeah, we went through every single emotion that we would anyway go through with FIFA.
I beg to differ. I think it was India's worst league ever played. I've been for the worst tournament. I mean, starting from the beginning till the end, everything was really, really bad. So you want me to go through every incident or?
I saw your LinkedIn post. I think it was a couple of days back, right? If I'm right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how have been the reactions? Because you've really stated what you thought went wrong.
So everyone out there, especially the new clubs that have joined, they could not open their mouth because they were like, happy just to be there, but they were complaining silently. They were complaining. They were talking to me, complaining. They were actually being bullied. Generally being bullied. I mean, you talk about the group staging. You have 4 clubs from last year that were seeded to be in this league, in this year's league, and you have the one of the seeds in one A group, and you have 3 of the seeds in B group. What logic is that? And then you say the top 4 from each group qualify. So you're giving Group B just one spot to qualify from the other three, and the Group A has 3 spots to qualify. I mean, what is this bias? You have to have it equal. You know that four seedings are there. You give two on either side. But Gokulam gets only one, and all the other teams are easy. And Group B has 3 top seeds, including Odisha, which has almost practically the India team. And you got another club, which is that ESU, which has the ex-India team. So we practically any club in that side has no chance of qualifying. So I didn't understand the logic in making that grouping. Secondly, the refereeing was so biased, it was unbelievable. I mean, we literally have taken out videos to show how bad the refereeing is. And then at one point, the referee is saying, we got your complaint. The same refereeing is refereeing again. Now, what more can I say?
How was the communication with the AFF and the Gujarat State Football Association about these matters during the competition?
So actually, there was no communication. Um, to be honest, we saw a member of the GFA precisely twice in the entire duration that we were there. Precisely twice. Our only point of contact were some really young girls from Bhavnagar who had been given the jobs of the LOC. And honestly, I can't hold anything against those young girls because they did their best to try and make us comfortable. And that's as much as they could do. They are not from GFA, neither are they from AIFF, and they were just assigned a duty to kind of overlook things at the accommodation. But that's it. There was no other point of contact. And after a certain point, the only thing they could answer us is please email AIFF, please email AIFF. That's the only thing they could say. There was absolutely no other way of communication. Even once we reached the venue where the matches were being played, at that point, whoever was there from AIFF was so busy with conducting the tournament that there was no point in trying to, address issues about the accommodation or the food or the training grounds or the transport with them at that point. There just was no time because you reached and you had to follow the schedule as per the AIFF countdown, and after that within half an hour you had to leave the venue, and there was absolutely no time to communicate with them all the hardships that everyone was going through.
And talking about the match day, there was no snacks after the game. No snacks, no tea. And I asked them, can we postpone the game by half an hour? They said, no, there's telecast. So I said, who's telecasting? They said, YouTube. I said, seriously?
I mean, I'm sure they could have postponed it since it was their own telecast.
It's like 44 degrees, 42 to 44 degrees at that time. The girls have to warm up around 3:30.
Arunava, are the national team women's players going to be playing in Saudi Arabia anytime soon? I have a feeling they're going to be playing in Saudi Arabia because this experience definitely has got them ready to play in Saudi Arabia. I'm serious. I'm not joking. I'm serious because I think there is something in the pipeline for our women to play in Saudi Arabia because they've got them ready with 45 degrees temperature. So there must be something in the pipeline for our women to play in such harsh weather conditions.
And that's the tough one. I think the timing and the venue, again, all of this, these are issues that need to be addressed. The other point, what I thought before the tournament, and I'd stated it also, is that did it make sense to create a 16-team competition in 2 groups of 8? Nirvan, what do you think from a coaching perspective?
Absolutely. But even after creating that, you at least provide better timings, na? You have floodlights at Trans Stadia. Use those. You can have a 6 o'clock match and then you can have a 8 o'clock match. I mean, this is 44 degrees. My eyes were burning at a 3 o'clock at a 4 o'clock match, literally burning. And there's that hot air blowing across. It's the loo out there. It's known as the loo, just blowing across the ground. You can't bear it. Yeah, you can't sit. You can't actually sweat. The sweat is just evaporating.
I mean, we were on the sidelines, and we were going through such a difficult time on the sidelines. I can just about imagine what those girls went through, you know. And it's so sad that our girls give it their best. They play their hearts out because they know the opportunities are so few and far between, that even in these conditions, they give it their best, even though we had hardly any time to recover between matches. There was a point at which we were playing every alternate days. Where is the rest and recovery? Where is the rest and recovery? How do you expect players to play within like 48 hours? It's insane. It's
Not even
completely.
48 hours. There's no gap of 48 hours also.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually technically not in 48 hours. You're getting actually
Yeah.
only 24 hours in between. Yeah.
And this is the top league for women. Would that be done in the I League? Would it be done at the ISL?
Yeah, and Arunava, even I actually felt a little differently about the two groups of eight each. I think they could have had one top league of eight and had a second league as well. I think that would have made more sense rather than having, these two leagues of eight, and, then the knockout stages. I think it would have been better to have two different groups.
And that was most probably would have given also the chance of a higher level of competition. Most probably, question of course is how many state associations needed to be accommodated this year due to things that have happened as well. So that's a question that needs to be asked. We've heard a lot from the AFF president as well as the secretary general that we will want to change things and we will want to do things differently. Is this something that you guys or the female players that you've spoken to, that they're accepting, that saying ठीक है ये बार हो गया, next time onwards it'll be better? Or is that like is there sort of a thing that you think, okay, this is sort of something which will sadly most probably continue?
Arunava, we've been talking about football for the last 20 years now, haven't we? It's been
Yeah.
20 years. Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. And it's so sad that for women's football, definitely nothing has changed. I mean, I actually at one point was really excited when I heard that the tournament was going to be held in Gujarat, only for one reason. The girls who went for the national games came back with really fabulous stories of how fantastic a host Gujarat was. The girls were put up in 4 and 5 star hotels, and two players to a room, and air conditioned, and buffet lunches, buffet dinner, buffet breakfast, and fantastic coaches ferrying them across the city. I was really impressed. I said, wow, I think Gujarat government is a really fantastic host, and I was really looking forward to receiving a similar kind of hospitality. But we were shocked. The first thing that happened to us when we reached is we were put into an apartment with 3 bedrooms, and each bedroom had officials from different clubs. And I thought it was a mistake. So this was like 2 in the morning, and there was one girl in charge, and she said, "No, madam, yehi barabar hai. This is how we've been. This is how we've been assigned the rooms." So I said, listen, this is not a hotel. This is an apartment. There are common areas where, people would like to, sit and discuss as a team of managers, with our coaching staff, with our girls. How is that going to be possible? You all haven't even given us a team room, which was, usually allotted to each team, where you can have your team meetings or you can store your equipment. In this case, nothing has been given to us. How do you expect us to uh, how do you expect us to have our team meetings? They're saying, no, we don't know about all that. You'll probably have to do it when you go for practice. So we said, yeah, okay, that is possible, but even on a daily basis, we need to meet our players and discuss things with them. This is a high level competition, and there are going to be days when We will have to call a few players. We might have to call a physio. There might be issues. Do you think it will be possible for us to discuss private things that are known only to our team with coaching staff of some other club, like within a year shot? That doesn't make any sense at all. They're saying, no, no, we don't know about all that. We've been told to allocate rooms like this. So it was very simple. We just had to just shuffle around a little, whereby coaching staff of teams could stay together. But even that small little effort was not taken. The same thing was done with players. Players of different teams had been put into apartments together. Not only that, they even had hostelites in their apartment. How does that work?
And male hostelites.
And there were floors where girls were on the same floor with male hostelites. I thought that was a security issue. I definitely thought that was a security issue because you know it's not possible for something to not go wrong when the proximity is so little.
While we are
And
at it, Anjali, this is one question from Ashu. Would it have been
Yeah.
possible for AIFF to ask teams to take care of their own accommodation by themselves?
Absolutely. So earlier on, the AIFF used to allow clubs to take care of their own accommodation. But apparently this year, I was clearly told when I spoke to an official from another club that this year, even another club who wanted to take care of their own accommodation was not allowed to. They specifically told them, no, you have to stay here. And why? No one got any answer as to why. See, there are big clubs in the pool, and I'm sure there are enough of clubs who can afford to put their entire team up in a hotel. I don't see why that wasn't allowed.
and after 2 days, we had to sign a integrity letter. How does that work when we are
Mm.
sharing rooms with other clubs?
So will you?
What's the content of the integrity letter?
Sorry.
No, so the context of the integrity basically said that we will not, there will be no, we will not discuss matters pertaining to our team with other members of other clubs, or if someone tries to ask us any questions, we'll report it to the AIF. Fair enough. These integrity questions are important and it needed to be circulated to both the staff and the players. However, the living accommodations clearly was not supporting an environment where integrity could have been maintained.
And the question that of course is, does you know is the feedback that comes back out of this, and again, and taking immediate action. I think that was I think the need of the hour. And you've said it, again in private conversation, but you've also said it now on air as well, that it was left to some junior people to sort of somehow manage the situation. Is that the biggest disappointment, that in the past at least there was someone to contact, to communicate, and then they try to sort out things?
Absolutely right, Arunava. Last year, during peak COVID situations, we had AIFF staff within the same complex, and the AIFF staff would come at least once a day to take a round and figure out what's happening. You know, is everyone fine? Is everyone and over at that time, I remember we were also getting our RT-PCR tests and everything done. So there was supervision from AIFF staff at all times. However, this time, I'm honestly telling you, the only time we saw the AIFF staff is when we went to the ground.
Even where the match commissioner would be there before a match to see the team colors, what team colors are we wearing for the next match. Here, there was nothing like that. They said, we know what your team colors are. We'll send you a mail that this is what you got to wear.
Okay.
I think there's a question from Anisha. Why
Yeah.
were the players not allowed to meet their agents or anyone else? It's almost as if they didn't want players to someone else about their conditions. They didn't want the players to explain. Yeah, I believe so.
Integrity.
I believe so. There were some issues where players were not allowed to meet their agents, and the agents and representatives were banned from coming into the facility, which was a little bizarre, I thought, because I mean, everyone has mobile phones and everyone can
I think this was an integrity issue.
everyone can talk about their you know what they're going through, and if they're going through a tough time, of course the players are definitely going to talk to their agents. Especially the food, it was very difficult for a professional athlete to sustain on the kind of food that was being given.
So the food was outside the hotel in a mandap. Now we are already in a 44-degree environment, and the food is being served in that environment in a mandap outside the hotel. A-
So
and the food, there's hardly any proteins in it. I don't know how the players survived it.
I believe a lot of other big clubs actually started ordering their own food, and the clubs who could afford it did it, and the clubs who couldn't afford it just had no other option but to just eat whatever was being given. And the place was so far and so remote from anything that to order a 200 rupee dish you had to probably pay 400 rupees in transport.
Okay.
It just didn't make any sense. It made no sense at all.
As you can see in Akshata and my face, I think it's a level of shock. I think to hear and whatever you are narrating from these experiences, and I do hope that people uh, within the AFF and within the leagues department look into this, because again we've heard a lot what they would like to change, and we've have the 2047 vision presented, and other things, and aims for the next 3 years until 2026. But I think there are short-term fixes which you need to make, or where there are short-term fixes to be made. We had the other day a conversation on Candid Football Conversations with Floyd Pinto, who questioned, for example, why the Indian Arrows program was stopped. So therefore that is a question: is that was too much tried in a too short span of time by the AFF, and with resources thin and far as well, with a lot of turnover in regard to staff within the federation as well. Was the staff, or is the staff equipped, or was it equipped to host such a competition? Um, the point, Nirvan, I come back to your LinkedIn post, and again we had discussed of doing this podcast quite a while back. So we were not aware of where this journey would sort of go in this conversation. Is that when you criticize things, and I know you've also been critical on a coaches and managers WhatsApp group which exists in India, um, and on other things there's a lot of reaction, but on these kind of things a lot of people don't react, or don't seem to react, or don't want to publicly come out. Is there this level of people having given up, or is this the level of fear that people don't want to really criticize the establishment or the setup for the sake of not doing it, or what is your opinion on or your take on something like that?
I think most of all,
Also,
sorry.
sorry, if I can also add to this, there were certain people who, from the beginning, were raising these concerns on social media. They were demanding for answers, and even then, nothing happened. There were no changes that were brought in. It was almost as if people, they were not willing to listen to the feedback that they were receiving, and there was at that time also enough time for them to make those changes. So why do you think that also happened? Like why did the change? Why did the feedback go unnoticed?
So I think basically first and foremost that people are not so much aware of. So one of the questions I asked are Indian women football players being paid when they go for a tournament? I still haven't got an answer for that.
National team
National
players.
team players being paid. Okay. So that's one of the things, and I want to ask you, Arunava, are they being paid?
I know that both men's and women's are only get a per diem. There is no payment for national team players.
Okay. Second, they are not aware of what happens in the IWL. Now I've created the awareness. People should start asking questions. People have to take it up with the AIFF. People have to take it up with the women's committee. There's a new women's committee made up of women. They have to take it up. From the people from the members of the women's committee should raise this issue. They should say that there's this talk going on and chatter going on. Why this league has been so bad? What has gone wrong? They have to take out a report on this. This should not happen. I truly believe that the Indian women can reach the World Cup before the men, but not like this. It's not going to happen like this.
Arunava, there's just one thing I want to say is I am actually shocked that the top clubs, barring one, are absolutely mum about all this. I mean, they're pretending as if none of this actually happened. They're pretending as if their players did not play in 45 degrees. They're pretending as if the ride to the training ground didn't take an hour and a half. They're pretending as if their players didn't have to go and eat in 45 degrees in the pandal. Why? Why? Why are certain clubs completely mum about it? Isn't that you're doing a disservice to your players? But let me tell you, players from these very clubs who are also Indian national players wrote to the secretary and informed him about the conditions, whether their club cared or no, or whether their club raised the issue or no. The players wrote to the secretary, and the secretary apparently has just written back saying that things will be better next year. Wouldn't it have been better for the club to put a little pressure? You are responsible for your players. There was not even a first aid box in place in this facility we were staying in. There was no medical help. There was no transport. We were 5 kilometers away from the nearest shop for even for a chemist. How do you expect? And everything was, oh, the team managers can go and get it. And we were in such a remote place that when we would book an Uber or an Ola, it would get cancelled at least 5 times before someone agreed to come, because it was such a remote place, no one wanted to come. I mean, are you serious? There was not a single shop around, not a single shop there. We were like in the desert.
And you wouldn't dare venture past during the day. You'd have to wait till around 6 or 7 o'clock.
It was so hot that it was not like, okay, we'll walk a kilometer and we might get a rickshaw or something. No, you could not get out of that place, because you would definitely faint if you tried to walk between, say, like 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock. If you went out walking somewhere, you would faint. You would definitely faint. And everyone has, I am telling you, if you were to ask players anonymously, everyone will agree that this was one of the worst organized leagues. Believe me, it was the worst organized leagues. The conditions that the girls were made to play in were deplorable. I mean, the top league in men's football gets the best weather from November to March, when it is really pleasant in most places in India. Why are the women being treated so badly? Why are the women being treated, as if it doesn't matter? We're just ticking a box that we have to.
But Anjali, I would like to defer on that one at least a little bit. If you see what happened at the Super Cup, similar kind of issues were raised by certain coaches and certain players in regard to what was happening in Kerala, and again, transport was an issue. Teams had to travel 2 hours to their training facilities, over an hour to their matches. This was the thing with Kozhikode and Manjeri. And coaches were asked to attend press conferences, which could have been done on Zoom. They traveled like 6-7 hours in total a day to cover press engagements plus the training sessions of their own team. So it seems to be that this has happened. I think that is something that I think we need to point out, that even in the men's will face a lot of problem next season. I feel with the season starting in July, you have to accommodate an Asian Cup. you have to be finish off before the IPL starts. That's been one important thing that the TV channels have put a lot of pressure on, or the TV partner of the AFF. So the question is how do we get this sorted, because there is this general scheduling issue. A blown up league, again, I would have preferred, as you've also said, two leagues of 8 teams each, and again, maybe even not 7 but maybe 14 matches, maybe even across 2 venues, over a let's say a 3-month period, with a break in between. I think certain things can be done. The question is, and also the question remains is the AFF listening, and will the AFF rectify these things? And that's the main question that we have. And again, it's not about this conversation amongst us is not about criticizing for the sake of criticizing. No, we're doing this to try and raise awareness of that there are problems, there are issues which need to be addressed immediately. You cannot wait till tomorrow, next week, or next year to sort them out, because then nothing will happen. And I think that is a very, very important point that not only I, but Akshata, or even I think you and Anjali and Nirvan will want to get across, that this is not a bashing session or a criticism session, but this is about constructive criticism in regard to things that need to be rectified for not only the women's game but Indian football in general to move forward.
Absolutely.
Arunava, you're absolutely right about that. I will go one point further and say a federation is funded on taxpayers' money. There has to be accountability. This is not a private limited company where anyone can do what they want to and be unaccountable. I'm sorry, that just does not happen. Okay? And especially the paid employees are answerable to every stakeholder of Indian football. Whether you're a team owner, whether you're a player, whether you're a manager, whether you're a fan, they are answerable. And I'm very sorry to say, this year, for months, I have been in touch with the AIFF and they haven't bothered to reply to even one single mail. The whole attitude is we are not answerable to you. That is not right. That is absolutely not right. Okay, and clearly this is constructive criticism, and they have to take it in a good sense. you know Someone has put on a question about a budget being sanctioned. Actually, the funny part is, I'm pretty certain there is no budget for the IWL, because this is what was happening earlier and this is what is happening now. As far as the women's tournament is concerned, AIFF goes out with a begging bowl to whichever state association is willing to organize it free of cost, and then the it, then the
They're
results
dependent
are
on
for
that.
everyone to see. Whether it is the amount of money sanctioned per player per day for food. 50 to 60 rupees is sanctioned per player per day for food. What are you going to get in 50 to 60 rupees? 3 meals, including non-vegetarian food. If you would have seen that chicken curry, you would wonder what is chicken in that. The tiniest pieces of chicken. But it's so sad. The players who need the protein were just eating whatever they got.
Eggs were counted.
They were counting eggs and giving girls, and they were said, no, you can't get more than one egg. Can a player sustain on one boiled egg? No, he can't.
We had
you
foreigners
know
in the IWL this year, and before we come to that question, Akshata, you had one of the girls in your team came from the Philippines. She's gonna, comes from a setup. Of course, the Philippines have their own set of problems when it comes to the women's game. What was the feedback of those kind of players, the foreigners, and you might have interacted with other foreign players as well?
So basically, it was difficult for her. It was very difficult for her. First of all, food wise, it was a real nightmare for her because she was not used to the spice. And no matter how much we told the caterer, cut down your spice, he did not. So after some point, she had basically just started living on like eggs and fruit, and she was getting her own stuff,
And we were making some stuff
and
for
we
her.
were cooking some protein stuff for her, but she could not eat any of the food. So this was definitely not catered taking the foreigners into consideration.
Simple things like pasta they could have made, they didn't make.
So the foreigners were not, forget the foreigners. I think they didn't even bother so much about the Indian girls. The foreigners were way, way out of their consideration.
It was only Gujarati food throughout.
And that was about, I was about to come to that, just to explain to the viewers. So it was not sort of say yeah, sportsman, forget sportsman food, but it was not even sort of a national palette of food which is available or could be available in an Indian context. It was just local food which was served to you.
Also, this time there was no photo shoot as they usually have before a tournament. Also, this time they did not do any coach's interview after a match. So, anyone wanted to know what was the view of the coach? Nothing of that sort.
In fact, I honestly feel there wasn't even much publicity around the tournament. There was not a single banner anywhere in Gujarat. Not one single banner saying this the
Not even
IWL.
around the stadiums.
No, none. Not a single banner
On the road.
on the road to the stadium or anything. At the stadium, of course, there was AIFF branding and all. Within the stadium, of course, there was. I think they had sold space to teams, whoever wanted to pay and buy runner boards along the pitch, and there were certain in stadium branding was there, but nowhere out in public there was not a single board or a banner that this event is happening. Do you know, I have friends in Ahmedabad who I was talking to that, I'm here and I'm having a tournament. They're saying, really? Like, and I said, you all should come because, the whole national team is playing in some team or the other. So you'll really get to see some good level football. They're saying, really, we have no idea. Then the next thing they say is, you think we can get out at 4 p.m. in Ahmedabad in summer? Are you crazy? This is what the Ahmedabad people are telling me. They're saying, are you serious? They have scheduled matches at 4 o'clock. I said, yes, they have. She's saying, in Ahmedabad, no one gets out till 7 in the evening during summer. I mean, she said, I don't know what they were thinking of. Are they trying to kill you guys, making you play in these crazy weather conditions, And that is something we really need to think about. We are letting our girls down. We are letting our girls down. We are letting the highest women's tournament in the country down by just not taking into consideration basic things. They could have had the matches a little later. They could have had the matches in floodlights. When I talked about floodlights, I was immediately told by one AIFF member, Madam, it's 50,000 rupees an hour for floodlights. Will your club play for it? I said, yeah, okay, fine. Then, why can't we do it like from 5 to 7 p.m.? That's a little better than 4 to 6, right? If we can't afford to pay 50,000 bucks an hour for floodlights, make it a little easier at least. No. We have to do it only at this point.
But we've had this problem this season on when it comes to floodlights. Also in other competitions, Reliance Foundation Development League also has been an issue in certain parts of India, and therefore let's see. Akshata, yeah, you wanted to ask a question or maybe use a user question to be posted.
So there are not really questions. There are some points that people have shared. But before that, I just wanted to quickly know from all three of you about the broadcasting issue, because that was widely discussed that the broadcast is not happening. Firstly, it was this schedule came out very late. Then the broadcast was announced. Few days after that, repeatedly people were asking for the broadcasting. Where is it going to happen? And then it was told that only the evening matches will be broadcasted. There was a reason given that the quality of the broadcast is being given importance right now, and that is why the morning matches will not be broadcasted. On what basis was the schedule created then? Because there was also a team called Misaka, which in the schedule was later changed because Misaka did not get any match that was being broadcasted. So in that case, girls are playing. There are sponsors also who, of course, get very few eyeballs, but there's something that they also expect from it, right? On what basis are we deciding कि क्या broadcast होना चाहिए क्या नहीं होना चाहिए? And when we know somewhere that that not a lot of people are going to watch it, so do we at the last moment have to focus so much on the quality of the broadcast then everything else is being ignored for like maybe we could have just sacrificed on the quality a little bit? Was it possible? I mean, that's just a question that I have, that was it possible to maybe broadcast all the matches by compromising on the quality a little?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think they should have completely made sure that every single team, no matter who they are, gets broadcast. Because whoever you are, whatever little bit of sponsorship that you try to get in that makes your life a little easier being a team owner needs to be publicized. You need to get those eyeballs. You need to at least allow your sponsors to be able to see their name on the kit. I mean, that's the least we can do. I mean, it's so simple. Do you know? Let me tell you. You're talking about matches and broadcast. Do you know when we reached over there, the LOCs could not even make a schedule as to who is supposed to come for lunch and dinner at what time. I made that for them. I made an Excel sheet for them based on which team is going for practice, which team is going for a match, and which team is resting in the hotel. In the hostel. Based on that, I made a 10-day schedule saying, okay, this team will come at this time for breakfast, this time for lunch, and this time for dinner. Because otherwise, we had like 4 team members all in the dining mandap for at one time, and girls were standing and eating. I said, what is this? Why are you making players stand? Just follow a timetable. They could have done the same thing with so many things. They
You-
could.
Honestly, I don't know why they could not telecast the morning matches. I mean, what is the reservation on a YouTube? I have no idea.
I think it was not, if I understand right, and I'd spoken to certain people within the federation, the idea was to ensure a quality broadcast, and they had a certain budget overall, and that budget enabled them only to do one broadcast of a game per venue per day. So it means that they
Ah,
were able to do two, and I said to them, I would have said rather do all matches in an inferior quality, then pick and choose which matches you're doing. I think that would have been. I think we've missed some good matches. We've missed some excellent goals.
The
In the,
Misaka Gokulam draw, my God.
yeah,
I mean, there's no recording of that. Can you imagine?
lots of kickstart matches were not shown.
I think
yeah,
there must be so many future India players in that Misaka team, but who's to say it's not being recorded?
And
and
the
that's I
refereeing
can.
errors also, as
Yeah,
was pointed out by Nirvan also, we have no idea. There's no record of the refereeing errors in the morning
Yeah.
games.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we were lucky to at least have all our refereeing errors on recorded. So even the referees can go back and see it and improve. I mean, they have to at some point know that certain decisions that they are making are wrong and improve it for their own quality, possibly. Arunava, another thing is, we really need to sit down with all the bodies that organize football, whether for men or for women, and come out with a calendar. I've been saying this for years now.
Calendars out.
But the thing is, the Khelo India games are there, the national games are there, now there are mini Olympics, then we have senior nationals, and we have IWL. How and everything is squeezed into 4 or 5 months, and the rest
but
of the time,
but again, Anjali, you have one problem in this, and if you're creating a calendar including national games or Kilo India games, those are not being organized by the AFF or by the football system, and dates change there as well. So that is a problem which I feel the federation also faces, in that the federation is trying to announce dates for. And again, I'm just speaking on the men's side, because I think that problem is evident, where Igor Stimac wants a certain period of time with the team. They are playing a lot of international tournaments over the next 6 months. No one has gotten more exposure than the Indian senior men's team that they'll get over the next 6 months. But that puts pressure on the ISL schedule. And they're saying the Super Cup will be played in parallel to the ISL and to the I League. The I League is supposed to be now potentially a 14 team competition. So it means, 4 more match days as well. So I'm just talking from a men's perspective that scheduling already is an issue because they're saying the Duran Cup will start in the last week of July. Now, July, August, and you're likely to play in the East and the Northeast is monsoons.
Yeah.
So problems are already going to be. And again, the point is, I know a lot of the footballers say that I don't want to play on artificial turf. Most probably in the monsoons, that's your best option to play on. So therefore, if you are unable to sort this issue in the men's game, and they're there with less
And
focus
there's one more.
on the women's, how are you going to sort that mess as well? So those are the very, very key point. I think there needs to be a pragmatic approach to scheduling and deciding, can I keep 72 hours between matches? Can I do a schedule with matches every fourth day, so that I give enough recovery time to the players, and all
And,
these factors in. Yeah,
and now
Nirvan, please.
Shahzi's added one more league of the public sector.
And
Yeah,
that's
there's
the
a
question: which players are attached to public sector companies, or will, as we've had in the past, especially in Kolkata, players who were playing for Eastern Railway or for Kolkata Metro or for a certain bank, and they were even, in the past, players have missed the derby because they had to play some bank, national bank competition, police competition, national railways. So therefore, again, an Indian calendar, setting that Indian calendar is not an easy job. But again, it needs to be sorted in a way. And I think dialogue is a critical thing. I think dialogue is very, very important, that happens between the federation and the clubs. They take the feedback from the clubs, understand what are the shortcomings. I think that's the only way. Again, we're doing this today to highlight some of the issues which are there, and hopefully, again, the right people listen to them and take action so that these things are rectified ahead of the next season.
And I think a simpler solution would be create teams. There should be one team for women's football. There should be another team for ISL, another team for I League to handle all these tournaments. There's the same people doing the I League, same people doing the ISL. They're not going to handle the leagues then.
Yeah.
For the public sector league, I have a question that I mean, I don't know how far am I right here, but with regards to IWL, there were certain athletes who were also occupied, who hold positions in public sector teams, and there were permissions required for them to, bring back into the IWL teams and, allow them to play here. So if we operate a public sector league there, then, that kind of a transfer, sort of a, temp transfer or sort of exchange of players, will that also be a problem?
I think so. I think the players will have to prioritize playing for the public sector unit rather than playing for a private club, because I think their job depends on that. So that is going to cause some issues, because they will definitely expect them to play for their club rather than a private club.
I think, yeah, Anjali is spot on. I think the challenge will be also in regard to registration, right? If you are creating a proper institutional league, the institutional league will have proper registrations. So the point here is if with the registration that you have, can you actually then play for a professional team within the system, be it ISL or be it I League? Again, we've had it in the past that players used to literally jump. There's a huge story today in Bengal that the women's IFA Shield started. Mohammedan Sporting lost a match against a team, and that opponent supposedly has signed players from all over the place, where people don't even know how the players have been registered with that team, and that team is owned by a politician. So there are multiple issues going on in the background, which needs to be looked at, and again, there is no simple solution, because from a registration standpoint, the prioritization needs to be on the professional team, and that does not happen if you are actually attached to an institution. I remember even Bala Devi had to take the okay from the Manipur police to sign for Glasgow Rangers women's. So, and that was not an easy process, as I remember. So, therefore, there are these problems, these issues which need to be looked at and sorted. That both in the men's and the women's, that these issues do not crop up, because they will crop up, because you still have certain teams. Um, Sports Odisha, for example, to me is indirectly an institutional team. It is not a proper institutional team, but it is somehow institutional team because it is supported by the
Government
sports
funded.
authority. It's
It
government
is
funded, and
government
it's
funded.
and
Sports
and
authority.
and sports authorities involved. But again, the Odisha government operates differently than most other governments, so that I will have to give it to them as well. So therefore, these kind of issues, Akshata, will be there. So I think it's not an easy solution, but I think that there needs to be a thorough process created, that these kind of issues don't crop up. Because again, I also feel sometimes people go back and think about the old days, everything was better. No, we have to look forward into the professional day and age, and see how it is sorted, and how the clubs are also helped to be able to sustain themselves. I think the sustainability, commercial success of clubs is something which is another big problem that we face generally within Indian football.
So while we are at it, there is also something that happened recently. A revision sort of has been announced about the salary structure, the remuneration structure for the women players. So how are we? And Anjali, Anjali and Nirvan, because you're in that position, was some sort of a communication that did some sort of a communication take place? How did that decision come into place? Like what kind of communication was taking place before it happened, and of course, after the announcement was made.
So basically, I think there's a positive and a negative to that. Okay, it's always nice to know that the Indian women footballers can, aspire to get paid, what they have been promised to pay, 3.2 lakhs per year. That's a good sign. However, how many clubs will really be able to fulfill that criteria?
32 lakhs.
That's 32 lakhs minimum. And
Plus
Plus
taxes. Plus
besides that,
taxes. Anjali,
plus
plus taxes.
taxes,
plus
yes,
other
yes.
players.
Plus, you have to play the rest of the team as well. And the minute you kind of peg one player at 3.2 lakhs, the other players are going to also say, well, at least I deserve 2.5 then, and I deserve 2, and I deserve 1.5. So suddenly the budget of the clubs is really going to skyrocket. I think it's a smart move from AIFF. First, it was just one club who was bearing the cost of the national team. Now they've put the cost onto 8 clubs. So it is a smart move from AIFF to distribute the national team players to every club. Okay, but having said that, did they even bother to ask any team owner before making this move? I mean, it's so easy to spend someone else's money, and especially a team's money. I mean, again, I am asking, why isn't AIFF announcing a salary for the national team players, whether it's men or women? How can you put the onus onto clubs to
But
pay salaries
but
for the national team?
Anjali, I will defer on that opinion, because nowhere in the world does national team players get salaries. You only win if
No,
you win.
no. There are certain countries who are paying their
America,
players'
Australia.
salaries. There are countries that are paying their national team a year-long salary. There
America,
are.
Australia.
Australia and the US are paying their national team players a salary.
But that's a different structure. No? If we want to follow the European structure, in Europe, no country pays their players a salary. They only get money if they are successful in competitions. So, for example, the German team going into the World Cup, the players went home with €0 because their payment structure starts from the knockout stages. So the
See,
German team last year didn't get paid.
wha-
So therefore, again, national team is something. Do we want to be in a situation, because the AFF is in a situation, is we have to, I think one has to also understand is that there's a limited amount of money that the federation has. So how do you distribute that money? I think that's the big question
Get
now.
sponsors. Plain and simple, get sponsors for the national team.
But who is going to do that? Who's coming forward? Who
What
has
The
is
come forward?
marketing partners.
why you have AIFF marketing partners?
Why are we accepting not getting sponsors for our national team?
Because no
I
one's
mean,
coming forward.
Indian cricket team has got Adidas just now.
I mean, we have to take some good from cricket.
But that isn't that part of the problem is that we're saying we want to take some good from cricket, but then I start with the simplest of things, which I always says, and we've discussed it on the Twitter Spaces together as well, is that when people talk about TV rights, nobody wants to pay for Indian football TV rights, not even for the ISL. So where does the money come from? We're looking for sponsors. People are talking about investors. Some of the biggest clubs in an Indian ecosystem are looking for investors. They've not found investors over the last decade. I mean, that's a reality. That is a reality. There is no money that is lying around. You run a club, you run an academy, you know better than me how difficult it is. Right?
Oh, yes. Oh,
So
yes.
therefore, but again, on a national front, even the national team does not. I mean, even the cricket team, everyone has pulled out. Adidas has come forward, but Adidas has different approach to the whole thing. That's why they want to use cricket. But otherwise, they would have not come forward. But why, for example, in an Indian sporting context, Akshata is wearing a Liverpool jersey. For example, Nike doesn't do anything anymore in the Indian marketplace,
We're
right?
aware of that. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that those are realities. Kit sponsors, kit partners. None of the big ones. Mumbai City has Puma because of the City Football Group. BFC has a relationship which is already nearly a decade old. Adidas did something with Real Kashmir because it was a lovely PR story and they used it for 2 years and then there was no sales. There's no money to be made, and those are realities that we sadly live in an Indian football ecosystem.
But then why are you killing the club?
Arunava, today, honestly, if you compare club football to state football, which is more exciting?
I would say club football.
Exactly. Do you think club owners have even been called? Okay, some club owners have been called, but on a larger scale, have they even bothered to even send out a one pager, like a questionnaire to club owners as to why they continue to fund football in spite of all these despite difficult conditions? I mean, if you're saying the national team cannot get sponsors, can you imagine what is the state of small club owners like us, who are year after year after year, we are investing money, and then that too playing for an unfair system where the playing field is not equal. There are state associations playing dirty in the middle, and these same state associations are being rewarded. How do you expect football to grow if you're not going to respect the team owners who have invested time, effort, and money for so many years?
And how did they derive 10 players? Why not 5 players? Why not 3 players?
I
And
mean,
how much time are these players spending with the club also? I mean, that's one question that also comes up, right?
exactly.
The players are
Everyone
also
has a
spending time
job.
in the national team, with the PSUs. So, like, people need to share that amount also, right? You're giving that 3.2 lakh, but maybe people can come up together and depending on the time that the girls
I
are spending
think
in the team.
I think no research was done before that statement was made. Unfortunately, it was a very glamorous statement to make, because on the face of it, it sounds really lovely. Okay, who doesn't want to champion the Indian women football player, especially in the year of the Women's World Cup? Of course, it's very glamorous to say, "Oh, we are doing this," but have you spoken to the clubs? There are big clubs who are saying this is going to be a burden. Big clubs are saying it's going to be a burden. And no, I don't think any club employs players throughout the year. So they're going to be stuck with playing salaries for the whole year.
For a 2-month league, they're paying 32 lakhs.
For a 2-month league, they are paying 32 lakhs. Is that worth it?
Not even for the whole squad.
Not
Yeah.
even for the whole squad. Exactly. But who was taken into confidence before this decision was made? Oh,
But
but then
Anjali,
it's only
Anjali,
women's football. It's okay, no problem.
but
I mean,
Anjali, I would then ask you again. involved with FIFA. You were there for Lords FA. Did discussions happen with the other clubs? Is it that, a clubs forum or something of that is there to discuss these grievances, or even utilize the bigger entities which were there this time around? You have had now Kukulam Kerala winning the league thrice in the last three editions. Odisha FC is spending quite a bit. Might they be in a position to sort of
Arunava,
lead something in a conversation?
that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. The bigger the club, the less they will be talking to the rest of the clubs. I mean, the best part is if all clubs had gotten together and discussed the problems during this league. But like I said earlier, there are certain clubs who just pretended that everything was hunky dory, as if the weather was lovely, the arrangements were beautiful, their own players were suffering, but they did not say a single word. But now you have to read between the lines why those clubs did what they did, you know. But in the end, who's the sufferer? The sufferer are the players, you know. I mean, if you think that players from every single club have written to the general secretary, isn't that a big thing? Isn't that a big thing? You know, I mean, until all the clubs get together and discuss these issues and accept that there are some faults with the system's never going to improve, because they're always going to pretend, no, oh, we better be quiet because we are, you know for whatever reasons, we might face backlash or whatever. But that doesn't help develop the game. It does not help develop players. It just makes the system worse. You know, honestly, Arunava, I have been waiting for 1 year now for my case. It has been tossed from the disciplinary committee to the integrity committee. It's going to be soon 1 full year, and no decision has been taken. I have given up. I have really given up on getting justice from the AIFF, because honestly, I don't think nobody even cares anymore. And I think now, by giving the state associations the power that they are giving, they have actually washed their hands of uh, taking care of everything. Because now their whole attitude is, oh, it's in the ballpark of the state association. They will look after it. But what about a follow up? I mean, you also have to follow up, right? You had given this entire responsibility to the state association to run. There have been so many complaints. What have you done about that? Has there been any like, I mean, they have to get back to the club, the state association, and say, this was your responsibility, and so many complaints have come. What have you all done about it? But there isn't anything.
So Arunava, from next year, it's going to be a eight team league, IWL. So the 4 teams from A group and 4 teams from B group will participate in an 8 team league. So that kills the aspiration of all the other clubs. They're finished. We have no chance of qualifying. We have no chance of making an entry into IWL
Till the tier 2 and all start.
till tier 2 starts, which is going to be a long time. Okay. Now they're expecting 2 or 3 teams which are not going to be able to afford this 32 lakh budget. So what's going to happen? From where are they going to get the teams?
No, they're bidding. No, the bid is 2 crores to 5 crores for a bid. And the team has to be worth at least 50 crores. Like, it's really, are there men's teams worth 50 crores? Enough of them in India? And you're expecting women's teams to be worth 50 crores? I mean, it's aspirational. It's very aspirational, but it's not realistic at all. There are going to be enough of clubs who are going to say, forget it. Who's going to pay these salaries? It's better that we shut shop.
Shouldn't they be offering the fifth ranked teams, or the sixth ranked teams, or the seventh ranked teams, or finally the eighth ranked teams before they go out?
Before they go out and bid, shouldn't they offer this to the people who have come so far? And honestly, I'm saying this really without any prejudice because FIFA wasn't there, you know. So I genuinely believe the people who put in the effort to reach should be given the consideration before opening a bid. Because how is that 2 crores that AIFF getting going to help grassroots football or help clubs? Correct?
So can't we expect the money that in the long run, of course, it's it won't really bring any solutions in the short term, but in the long term, can't we utilize the money if there is a corporate that agrees to come on board, pay 2 to 5 crore rupees as the bidding amount? Can't we utilize it in building the league better and then making sure that the teams or the clubs that suffer now or in the next few years find a way to be back in the top tier.
Akshata, my problem with that is it'll never be used for women's football. There'll be 100 other options of men's football that money will be utilized for, unless there's a dedicated women's department or a dedicated body handling women's football. The money will be collected, but it'll never go towards the women's game. I'm sorry to say that, but that's the truth. That is the truth.
And that is why I spoke about the rigging or the bias of the grouping of the top 4 teams. Why was there bias in Group A?
There are a lot of people who will not talk about these, and they will, but behind the scenes everyone was really unhappy with the grouping. Everyone in Group B was really grumbling that, it's not fair. It's clearly not fair that 4 tough teams are in this pool,
5.
and the other pool is so easy. Everyone was grumbling about that, even though no one really has the courage to, say this
And
out in public.
and the semi-final had 3 teams from Group B, and Gokulam was lucky that they won against what's the team?
Odisha.
Eastern Sporting.
Eastern. They were trailing 1-0. No, not Eastern.
No, the semi-final was Odisha.
Odisha.
Odisha. They were trailing
Ah.
Odisha 1-0. They got a red card also.
Yeah. No, not to take away anything from Gokulam. They're a fantastic club, and good luck to them because they have a fantastic budget to buy the best players in the market, whether Indian or international. So that's really fantastic, and I think the grouping could have been more fair to make the competition more exciting.
And transparent.
It would have been really exciting if the grouping had been done a little more fairly. So it just would have been a more exciting competition. Here it was very predictable.
Yeah, because it is leading up to something else. It's leading up to next year.
We could have had an awareness draw for something, like a nice draw to bring in more people, more athletes, more men. Yeah, make an event out of it, create more marketing opportunities here. From the marketing perspective, I want to understand from all three of you that if I ignore every other thing also, just from the social media perspective, AIFF has a decent following on the digital platforms. If there, we can find ways to market the leagues better, make some money out of some platforms as well. If you have 500K followers on YouTube, you must be getting something from the advertising money, right? So there is potential just from the digital perspective itself. Do you see things happening? Do you see decisions being taken to ensure that the marketing is being worked upon? Because that in itself is a key issue, right? Like we can talk about broadcasting, we can talk about not people wanting to watch women's football, but at the end of the day, if people are not aware of what is happening, all of the other things will not really work out, right? So we are in the vicious cycle, and marketing is one thing that will break that vicious cycle. So are we taking realistic efforts towards that?
No, I don't believe any constructive efforts were made to market this league. I mean, it was just the followers of the Indian football Instagram page who got to know of the event because they are followers. But I don't think there was any paid marketing or paid activities done at all. Because clearly, from the numbers of people watching the game, that is very apparent. You know, there was absolutely, literally no one in the stadium. Literally no one in the stadium. Handful of maybe, extra players were in the stands. That's it. There was nobody else in the stadium. Of course, the timing also didn't help, but you know, absolutely nothing. You could have at least called your GFA six clubs that play football in Gujarat. You could have at least called the girls to watch the matches. Isn't it aspirational to watch a women's league? Because you've played that tournament and one of your teams has qualified. So five other teams, girls' teams, can at least come and watch the games. At least a club can put in that much effort that, okay, I'll provide a bus to get these girls here. Let them come and watch the game. You'll at least have 150 girls watching the game. There was nobody. No men, no women, nobody. The entire stadium was empty except for the spare players, extra players. That's it. There was nobody else. How do you expect this game to grow? And if you think about the money club owners are spending to reach here for 4 5 players in the stadium, is it worth it? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, why am I also investing money year after year after year? It's only because we are passionate about it and because we realize what the game can do to a woman, how it empowers a girl to be able to play at this level. It changes her life. It completely changes an ordinary person's life to be able to play at this level. But I mean, I think that's the only motivation is only from the club owner's perspective. What about everyone else? I mean, how are we going to sustain? At least last year, Eurosport was the telecast partner, and that was a big telecast partner. Eurosport was a big telecast partner, and the games that were shown so beautifully. The production was fantastic. It was really fantastic. And but this year again, there's no telecast. How do you go back to a sponsor and say, oh, last year it was on Eurosport, but this year it's going to be on YouTube? And if you see the production this year, I mean, they're talking about very good quality and whatnot. But sorry to say, it's not a patch on what Eurosport was last year. That was phenomenal. That coverage was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly take some comments that we've
Yeah.
received from people who are listening us. Kumar has said if AIFF can't provide basic accommodation to the club, they should leave the clubs who can provide their own accommodation. Clubs which can't afford their accommodation, AIFF should pay minimum amount. No more IPO. I think this was because of the changes in regime midway. There was simply no budget for IWL, and new admin didn't have the resources since it was done by previous admin. Hopefully, it gets better next season. This was one of the things that was said, that the budget was allocated by the previous regime, so the new regime did not really have a lot at their disposal.
That's
So,
not true.
is it?
It's not about the budget. I mean, I was given to believe that the mandal that they built cost 5 lakh rupees. Okay. So I asked them, could you not have had teams eating inside the hostel in the canteen, which was empty, and spent that 5 lakhs on the food? Do you know what I was told to that? Sorry, madam, non-veg food is not allowed in the hostel. But every single person in the hostel was ordering Swiggy and non-vegetarian food. Like, really? Non-veg food is not allowed in the hostel, but all your hostelites are ordering Swiggy and they're eating McDonald's burgers and everything. You think that's like, what are you talking about? They could have spent that 5 lakhs on better quality food.
Wrong priorities.
Wrong priorities, poor planning, just 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 a careless attitude, like you know, I don't have time for this. Let someone handle it. And yeah, we'll face the music when it comes. That's the chalta hai
Or pretend
attitude.
not to hear the music.
Or just pretend not to hear the music. Yeah.
The
Just
problem
just
was there was no,
just put it on mute.
Yes.
the problem was that there was no one from AIFF there during that period. If there was someone there, action could have been taken. Solutions would have been gotten.
I don't believe if any senior or executive committee member of AIFF would have come to the site where we were eating our food, they would not have really shuddered with shame that our top athletes of the country are being treated like this. They really would have felt really bad. You should have seen after eating, the plates were chucked in the mud. That was the level of hygiene. It was so poor. And the dishes were being washed in dirty water. You know, I mean, I'm really saying this was an all time low, an all time low. And can you imagine how bad all the athletes, I mean, our players felt? Ma'am, ye dekho,
And
ye hamari kadar hai. The national team players are coming to me and saying, "Ma'am, ye hamara is this our status? Is this how we are supposed to eat? Are the men's team players made to eat food like this?" That's what everyone was asking me. मैम मेन आई लीग मेन को तो पूरा बुफे मिलता है, ब्रेकफास्ट के लिए बुफे मिलता है. Here, if you had egg, you didn't get bread. If you got bread, you did not get egg. Hello, like what is this? They said the men get
Asking
a
for food
food.
is just not acceptable.
No, I mean, how do you expect a player who's not getting proper sustenance to perform? How do you expect it?
And in challenging weather conditions, that too, like one has to take extra efforts to make sure they're fit.
yeah,
It was almost as if, oh, we are at least organizing this tournament for you, right? Be happy. Be happy. We are organizing this tournament.
the girls had enough energy for one half only.
And who would be surprised
Uh,
given these circumstances, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Kumar says, I do not believe AFF word saying that they will organize IWL better next season. However, they're saying that home and away matches in league, they will rub off their hands. Is it realistically possible for us to have home and away format in the next IWL?
So this is what I League 2 started off with. It's a good solution. They're rubbing their hands off organizing tournaments. So I think it's fair enough. Let the clubs bear the expense now, and
See,
the travel.
I
I
think
also have sorry.
it'll be
Please
a
go ahead.
better solution for home and away because at least for the home team you have a lot of stuff in control, you know, and then you look after your hosts because otherwise you won't be looked after. So it's a reciprocative arrangement, right? So you look after the team you are hosting, and they look after you. It's reciprocative. It'll be much better.
No,
It's
the away team makes their own hotel arrangements.
Yeah, but generally you will make sure that they are comfortable so that you are comfortable in their city. I think
But
it might work out better.
but my question would be, the costs will explode,
Yeah.
and who will bear that additional cost? Because I
Clubs.
think that's the big question, because you're going to try and run a league maybe for 3 months, and then if you're
And
running a
plus,
league for 3 months, and then you have stay, accommodation, travel, um, especially the travel factor, flights is a huge cost factor. It's one of the biggest cost factors actually. So that is a
and
question. Yeah, please,
don't,
Nevan.
don't forget the 32 lakhs.
That is an added one on it. No? Your
Yeah,
budgets automatically go towards 2 crores without even thinking.
yeah.
So Arunava, I'm thinking uh this is all leading towards the ISL clubs from all owning women's teams because they are the only guys who are going to be able to afford this now.
No. Again, that is the wrong approach. The ISL guys are all saying we want to cut down on our costs.
Oh, come on.
Of course they are.
I know,
They
I
are,
know, I
There's
know
no
they
money
are.
anywhere.
they are losing 20, 25, 30 crores a year. And you are telling them to spend another 2 to 3 crores? I mean,
Listen,
this is
listen.
the hypocrisy of the whole system, right? Everyone is losing money. But you can't, again, if you do it like Odisha, they've taken it seriously. They're trying to do it right. And huge compliments to the way Odisha has done it with their women's team. But the others are not interested. Look at, again, East Bengal did qualify for the end, but were they serious about it? Mohun Bagan did not even bother to form a women's team.
Yeah,
There are multiple other ISL teams who don't want to form a women's team because it's an added cost. And we have a problem is that in the men's game, because we are not producing enough players, we are blowing up the leagues. That next season we will have 26 teams in the top two tiers. Do we have 600 footballers to fill the spots of the two top divisions in India? We don't.
we don't.
That's why
We
that's
don't.
why the salaries are even players are going to get close to 3 crores next season in salaries. One player. One player, male player will get more than the value of a whole team in the women's game. But that
Yeah,
is the problem that we face. No? That there needs to be a solution to that. That how can a team in the ISL, how can a team in the I League, how can a team in the IWL make money? Because then when these teams are in profit, that money trickles down to the smaller clubs. Because then the transfer market really gets into an interesting thing that money trickles down as it does in the rest of the world. And that is the biggest challenge. And our TV rights are valued. Again, I speak to TV executives. Nobody wants to pay for the TV rights. Again, the AFF tried to sell the rights for the IWL. There were no takers. People told them very, very clearly, you have to pay XYZ to get, because they were not interested. And that is also a reality that we need to, if we want to or not, that we need to accept. As much as we love football and all the people who are listening or will watch this afterwards, and we've discussed it on Twitter Spaces, there are no takers for Indian football. There is no one. There are other people who claim that there are TV channels waiting to pay 500 or 1,000 crores for the ISL rights. No, they're not. There's a
yeah,
channel at the moment who shows it who wants to get out of those rights because they have to bear the production cost, which is too high. So these are realities that we have. Everybody, all stakeholders in this are losing money. And
yeah,
the IPL has given Indian sports, I feel, a distorted some assumptions are being made that this how sports can run, be it football, basketball, tennis, kabaddi, whatever. Cricket is a totally different game. Cricket, the numbers make no sense. If you see how much Adidas is spending, it's a ridiculous figure. It's a ridiculous figure, and they will not even recoup 1/100th of that because that jersey doesn't sell. The Indian cricket MPL Sports has said we're not selling jerseys for 1,500 rupees. And we're talking about the most supported team India has. So these are brutal realities, right? Make it simple. Focus on elite development, but do things in the right way. Spend the money in the right way. I think the priorities need to be right. That is
yeah,
the biggest challenge that Indian football has in the summer, that the federation with their leadership needs to take the hard decisions, even if the state associations, the clubs might not like it, but they have to take it. Otherwise, um, I don't know if they've got money to run the football system till the end of the year, because the spendings at the moment seems to be too high, in my opinion.
yep. I agree with that
And
completely.
and just to add to it, with all where they tried to save money with the IWL, it is rather better not to organize a tournament than to organize a tournament that what you guys spoke about. It sounds bad because it does not give the exposure to the girls, but this is not the right way to do it. If you had a problem, I would have said, guys, sorry, or girls rather, or ladies, sorry, we can't do it. We will hold two IWLs next season.
Yeah,
Sort things out, because again, changes within the federation, new people coming in, old people going out who knew the system inside out. with their strengths and their weaknesses. And that is, I think, also a thing again, and that's why what the president and the secretary have said, that that they will try and sort things out in the next season. There are a lot of challenges waiting for them, and I wish them all the best, and I hope that they sort the things out. But these kind of things cannot continue, because then it's harming Indian football rather. Because I fear that there will be girls who've played now the IWL who will consider their football careers in saying, should I do this, or should I rather go and study, or get a job, or do something else. I've heard that from two girls already.
Yeah.
I'm not
And think
surprised.
about
I'm
all
not
the girls who came from other countries and go back and share stories of what happened with them here. So, I mean, what kind of uh, message are we sending across to other countries who are willing to send their girls here?
Yeah,
Exactly.
What,
absolutely.
uh, I also have one more quick question. Is the expense sheet of what how the amount is spent in a league available anywhere for the normal public or the fans to know? What this
By who? Spent by who?
by the AFF on such leagues.
Good luck, Akshata.
And then,
Good luck.
and there's no provision under the sports code also that demands them to publish such expenses.
No, absolutely not.
So I mean, if you're spending 5 lakh rupees apparently on a mandap or pandal or whatever,
All spent by Gujarat.
nobody knows.
It's
No,
all
but
being spent by Gujarat.
no.
It's being spent by the state
Exactly.
association.
So, Akshata, your problem is in the current scenario that the AFF has, that again the AFF budgets are limited, and if you see, the biggest expense at the moment are the national teams, the biggest expense for the federation. The ISL is independent, so that's an FSDL baby, and that's been spent by FSDL, by Star, by the franchisees. The I League is something which they spend on. The IWL is something which they spend on. But again, as said a little earlier, I League home and away, clubs get a certain level of grant for travel and for accommodation. The rest is being borne by the clubs. Uh, the IWL is sort of, or even the national championships are sort of, now they try to they're in the situation of having to outsource it, right? Even the Santosh Trophy in Kerala got and Kerala has gotten a lot of criticism, even though Kerala is a football state and all that stuff. The KFA has done a lot of good work in the recent years, but this year around, again, both the Super Cup and the Santosh Trophy were not the best organized in that state. So these are realities, right? Odisha has done a good job again in a lot of things. If you hear at the moment, the national team players are quite happy with the facilities and everything that are being provided ahead of the Intercontinental Cup. So those are the things, right? And for example, the Indian under-17 boys, they're quite happy to have been in Spain and train at the moment. They shifted yesterday from Stuttgart to Augsburg. Um, they prefer to be in this part of the world than be in India. They don't want to be in a camp in Goa, the juniors, because the juniors do not get the facilities that the seniors get, right? So even a normal standard accommodation in Germany is better than a normal standard accommodation in India, or even the same can be said about Spain. So therefore, those are realities. These are sad realities, brutal realities. I think we need to speak more often about it. That's why I did think that it was good that Nirvan did post it on LinkedIn, which is not a Twitter or a Facebook or something which disappears, but it's a business platform where people who work in sports or in the sport get to read about it, and it hopefully is read and understood by the right people, and then the necessary steps are taken, because otherwise, as Anjali said, it is further downhill, and that's not where we should be thinking about taking our game, be it the men's or be it the women's. And as Nirvan has also said, I think I believe that India 2027, I think we could play a World Cup. We should have played actually the World Cup this year if we had done our homework properly last year. There were a lot of issues, a lot of things have happened there, but again, that's past is the past. But we need to work towards that, because I think if the women can get to a World Cup, I think that it would be a huge boost for football in general. And I think all the problems that we speak about now, suddenly you then will see that state governments will come forward to sponsor, to do an IWL, to do a national senior women's national championship, and all these kind of things, all these problems will suddenly disappear. because we see that in other sports. Look at what has happened to badminton, or wrestling is a bad example at the moment, but what the states of, especially Haryana and all these states, have spent on the sport, that due to Olympic success. So therefore, all of these things are interlinked, and it needs the support, and that's the problem in an Indian system. I would say it's not a challenge, but it's a problem to get the amount of funding that is needed to run the system, to keep the system running, for the federation, for the state association, for the clubs, and also to give livelihoods to players.
Absolutely.
Akshata, you look shocked. Any more of the statements from the YouTube you wanna showcase and show? There are a few. I think Ashu had
Yeah.
some interesting statements and comments, or
I think you already,
that
I
is
think you
what we
already
discussed.
answered this.
That's one. I had the earlier one that he posted an earlier question. I believe there was a meeting, so we could cross check with Anjali. Yeah, Anjali, do you know about anything about this?
No, no, no. I haven't heard of. I haven't heard of this. There
Okay.
was a meeting with women's club owners 10 days before the IWL, because they wanted a little more time for, I think, because most of the players were at the senior nationals, and they wanted the girls to get at least a 3 or 4 day break. So I do believe there was a meeting between women's club owners just before the IWL, but it had nothing to do with salary related. The salary related announcement was made much before that.
All right.
Lakshya says stuff like this ought to happen when federations run a tournament. Who they have accountability towards? This is something that a lot of people ask. Who is the AFF accountable to?
To themselves.
No, I think they should be accountable to be everyone, because they are run by taxpayers' money, and I think people should not be so scared of federations. I mean, I was shocked that senior management in clubs were so afraid. I said, "What are you guys afraid of? Aren't you Isn't your owner investing money into this? It's serious money that your owner is investing into this competition. These are very basic amenities that everyone. It's the right of every club to ask for these. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, if you think about what the federation spends on facilities for this tournament versus what a club spends, the club spends much, 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 much more. The club is spending on the training, the club is spending on the travel, it's spending on the player salaries, it's
Ground.
spending on the ground, it's spending on the coaches, it's spending on insurance, medical, you name it.
And what are
I
they
mean,
getting in return?
what
Just
are
the
they getting?
satisfaction of
It's
playing.
only the satisfaction of being involved in developing a sport for women in the country. If someone was to actually put figures down as to how much you spend and how much you get back, I mean, that's why I'm saying genuinely hats off to Gokulam, because they spend in crores. And I think the prize money of IWL is a pittance. It is completely a pittance compared to what a club like Gokulam is spending. So really hats off to them for being able to do that.
And lots of clubs this year have spent a lot, huh?
Yes, it was, see, we also have to give some credit to what all went good. Okay. The talent up for show was fantastic this year.
There were good matches.
They were fantastic matches. Now, even like, just imagine a club like Misaka if they can hold Gokulam, you can imagine how much effort has gone in there. Credit has to be given to clubs like that. You know, there were so many fantastic, beautiful matches. But tell me, that is because the clubs are putting in the effort. So, really, I think clubs have to be encouraged much more, and there has to be some incentive for clubs to continue doing this, because the kind of time, money, and effort spent by a club is way, 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 way more than what they are getting in terms of subsidy for taking part in a competition. And that has to be appreciated and it has to be highlighted in whatever way it can be. Because today, whatever it is, the national team players are players from mainly from clubs that are investing a lot of money into their training, if I'm not mistaken about that. So I think credit should be given where it is due, and that will definitely eventually help the national team.
And also, credit should be given to the smaller clubs that are coming there to participate, because there are gems of players that you can find from these clubs.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's an important part and step
So
of
Arunava,
tracking.
Ashu has put something. If clubs want to have a say in AIFF's working, they should have some kind of a vote in decision making. Currently, only elected officials have a vote in decision making. I think that's actually a fantastic, that's a really good suggestion that clubs should have a say in
But
decision making.
but your problem will be in wanting to change the constitution. The state associations would have to give up um, certain amount of control and a certain amount of power, and
Arunava, tell me one thing.
that is a challenge.
Tell me one thing. Do you think every single state association in India deserves to be given the same amount of money that is being given to other associations? Is it fair that a ballpark figure is being given to every state association? Is it fair?
It's not a question of fair. I think it's a problem that you have in global football. FIFA does the same thing. Brazil, Germany get the same as India does, and as Nepal and San Marino, and I don't know what. So the problem is with this principle that sports governance has been created, is to treat everybody equal. And the question has been, especially in Germany, there's been a discussion in the recent past. The question is, should Germany have the same vote as, let's say, Guam or a San Marino? um, which is on one side is a valid question, but again, would someone care about the smaller states or the smaller countries if their vote was taken away? So it's a very very complex question where there is no simple answer, I think. But again, on the club representation, on the national body, that is there in other countries in Europe, be it the Premier League, be it the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, Ligue 1. All the leagues with their top clubs are represented in the national body, and this is something which I remember I had said should have been put into the new revamped constitution, and it was not. Certain people did not want it in there. So that's another problem, that the clubs need to have some sort of representation in the national body besides the state association. In other parts of the world, I take the German example, that here the professional clubs seem to have more power than the amateur state associations, or the state or slash regional associations. So that is a part of where there's always a clash. We saw yesterday, for example, in German football, the Bundesliga wants a private equity firm investment into their future television rights, to be able to spend money on their internationalization and to build an own streaming platform, which has failed because smaller clubs have said, no, we don't want this, while the bigger clubs say, listen, we are desperate for this. Because the smaller clubs don't care about, what does a team which is bottom of the second Bundesliga care about India and internationalization, right? So that is the problem, that there are too many interest groups and stakeholders who need to come together to make um, decisions in the best interest of the sport. That is the challenge. That is the challenge. Are we following best practices? Are we trying to understand of why Mizoram has come up the way they've come up over the last 10, 12 years? Why Manipur, with all the problems, and Manipur is in trouble at the moment, but they've been producing talent for the last 3.5 decades, right? Why are Goa, Bengal drying up as talent hubs, right?
Yeah.
These are the questions that need to be asked. And again, how do clubs get into the system? How do clubs move up the ranks? Corporate entries. What is their long-term commitment towards the sport? If if I see the I League as an idea, I think again there's one big positive example, that's Bangalore FC. But we've got other examples like Kalyani Bharat and all, who after 10 months shut shop again. Or people who said, listen, I want to do it, but then when they didn't find a route, they shut shop. You Mumbai in Mumbai, right? They wanted to get into the top tier. So we have to find solutions to the problems, and we need to find ways of getting investment into this sport. I think that's the main problem, women's and men's. We need massive investment into the sport. I was talking over the weekend to a friend of mine who works in the MLS, and I was listening to numbers. It's just insane when franchisees come in. They're already spending 200, 300 million committed 100% on building a sports specific stadium, a football specific, not a sports, a football specific stadium. St. Louis, Lutz Pfannenstiel, who's a good friend, the club will have spent over $1 billion to get into the MLS, to build their infrastructure, to be part of that league. And we are talking about 1, 2, and 5 crores to get into the I League or the IWL. Again, and most clubs, actually no club per se in that way, except most probably Srinath Deccan owns their own stadium in India, right? So we have basic problems. We are talking about very concrete things, and we've gone down the road. But I think that is factually sort of the situation where we stand. And Kumar, the point that you just raising is, no, I dealt with those people. They were not trying to change the constitution for the good of the game. Anjali, you remember we spoke about a lot of things, and that is again, whoever's claiming that, that's complete BS.
Yep.
This is put out by certain people as an agenda point of saying that it is, again, the state associations are at fault for a lot of things, but this was not a state association problem. There are much bigger players than that. So the less said, the better.
I would just say different people, same problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same problems, same problems.
And their
Different
realities,
people.
and realities that you have to work around is that even if we tomorrow get into the AFF and say, okay, we're running the show, you have to keep everybody happy. It is as sad as it is. That's a reality. So that's a reality that one needs to live with. It said, can you do development on one side, but can you keep the others happy as well and try to bring everybody along? That's why I love to bring that Mizoram example. And we did a podcast with Tete about it, where Tete took everybody along. And it is sure that at the start, not everybody was happy, but starting from the government, the clubs, the districts, sponsors, a television channel, for a northeastern state at the time, 1.25 crores a year for a 5-year contract, to say, listen, we will broadcast the Mizoram Premier League. It shows that it's possible. And it shows that in 5 years, they had a 5-year plan. They turned around Mizoram football in 5 years. So therefore, it is possible. But the basics need to be done. You've mentioned Gokulam. I always say, great respect what they do in the men's and in the women's game. And the commitment towards the women's game has been there for multiple years. They did not say it. Others have come in and gone out. But that commitment needs to be there. That is the thing, that you have a corporate group which is willing to spend. We've got others as well. JSW does it. The Tatas have been doing it over decades, of course, through the Tata Football Academy, now through Jamshedpur FC. But again, how do you support the smaller clubs in the system, by the PFAs of this world? They need the support to be able to sustain, survive, and to thrive and grow. I think that's the biggest challenge that we have in Indian football.
Yep. I hope we can find solutions, and I hope more people don't shy away from doing what we did 20 years ago. I hope more and more people come in and get into the system, and things look up and change at some point.
But people should not be afraid to talk. They have to talk, otherwise things are not going to change.
Yes, that is one mindset that has to change. I mean, we are not new to we're not new to the fact that when we talk, we face the repercussions. And I think the whole of India knows how I have faced the repercussions of being vocal, about the system. But I mean, thankfully, we do not run a house on football, and we are way beyond that, and we are in into football purely for development. And in fact, if we were not a part of football, maybe we would have had much more. But I don't think we are bothered about that. We're happy to have done what we have done over the years, contributed and invested as much as we have for the development of the sport. And now we've reached a point where we don't care anymore, because we feel some things have to be said, and it is up to the administration to take it in a positive way. Because unless they hear this, I mean, as long as people are going to just say yes sir to them. Oh, the tournament went off beautifully, the weather was so cool, the girls were cool and comfortable. Well, that's not the reality. They have to hear what the reality is. So at least next time they think, okay, if May is the only month we can have the IWL, maybe we should have it in Shillong, okay, or have it in some place where the weather is a little better. It's as simple as that. It's such a simple, you have to make that little adjustment, you know and they have to start planning from the beginning of the year. They know what the budget is going to be. And if they were to inform the clubs well in advance that, okay, by the end of the year, maybe we will be able to subsidize it 50%, maybe you'll have to subsidize it 50%, then the club can start working towards that. you know
Traveling can get cheaper.
they can plan the travel in advance. They can work towards creating a fund towards the IWL, which if they need will be used. So this dialogue has to happen. But I think there needs to be a dedicated department in the AIFF who looks into these things. I think too much work is just expected to happen, without dedicated people looking into it. So, I mean, they just imagine, yes, the IWL will happen somehow. No, it can't just happen somehow. If you want it to happen well and you want it to go smoothly, run smoothly, then it just can't happen on its own. You can't do jugaad for everything. There has to be a plan, and there has to be people allocated to making sure that plan works. You can't have one person who's only going to be looking at the tournament aspect of it. The tournament aspect is not the only aspect of an IWL. There's so much more. Okay, there is the accommodation, there is the food, there is the training, there are other needs that clubs have, but there was no one to address it. So this attitude that, oh, it will run on its own somehow, that jugadu attitude has to change if you want things to change.
Also, another thing is, while we talk and we are expressing ourselves, we want the public also to express themselves. The public has to ask questions, that why has this happened? Why is Nirvan and Anjali questioning the system? Why they have to ask questions to the AIFF and make sure they are answered. Because only when everyone asks questions, then AIFF will wake up. Otherwise, they're going to say these are just two couples who just keep making noise. Let's just ignore them.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to happen. So everyone has to be involved if you want Indian football to improve. And once again, I'm saying Indian women's football is the only football that is going to go into the World Cup
In our lifetime.
in our lifetime. Kindly support them, ask questions, make sure Indian football improves, Indian women's football improves. Trust me, we will be the first ones to go into Indian World Cup, the World Cup. Maybe in the next 4 years, not this one, but the next one, we will be there for sure.
And that needs to be the aim. I think that's a perfect ending, Akshata, for this live of our Candid Football Conversations. I think we were quite candid today, all of us, and I think said a few things which needed to be said. First of all, Anjali Nirvan, thanks a lot for being as open and honest as you always are, not only in private but also in public as well. I think that was important. Akshata, thanks a lot for being here. Thanks to you guys
Thank
who
you.
are all listening and who asked questions, and yes, do follow Sports Khabri as well as Arunfoot here on YouTube. Leave a like, leave a share, and subscribe. Also share this video, I think, with others, so they get to know about these topics, these issues,
Yes.
these problems will persist that we've been talking about today, is because this is a conversation that I've been having with Anjali and Nirvan for over 2 decades. Not only we three, but also Chris has been part of conversations. Akshata has been part of conversations. Other people have been part of our conversations. And this is, we're doing these kind of conversations because we want Indian football to improve and Indian football to be successful. This is not criticism for the sake of criticism, which does happen often on social media. This is a critical analysis of what went wrong in the IWL and or goes wrong in the Indian football system, and hopefully they are rectified by the people who have the power, the will to change it. Thanks a lot for being part of Candid Football Conversations, you too. Thanks, Akshata, for co-hosting, and I hopefully will see you again very, very soon. Thanks and good night.
Thank
Good
you. Good
night,
night.
Arunava.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Akshata. Good
Thank you,
night.
Akshata.
Thanks,
Bye.
Anjali. Thank you, Nirvan. Thank you.